Hello, everyone, and welcome to another phonetics lesson here at Study English with Us. So glad that you have joined us today, and we hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are well and that you are safe and staying far away from this coronavirus. Maybe you can even let us know in the comments below where you are in the world and what it's like where you are. And are you at home? Are you self-isolating? Are you in quarantine today? Just let us know. What a wonderful time to actually learn a new language, right? You've got lots of time to study English with us, and we hope to see you here often over the next few weeks as everybody takes a break from their regular life and self-isolates. TK and I are also at home for the most part. Our local government has not yet put a shelter-in-place order for us here, and so we are able to get out every once in a while, go for a walk, maybe even take a little drive down the highway. We did that today, and so we're not yet having cabin fever. We are still able to get out a little bit, and we hope that you are able to get out for a little fresh air as well. Today's lesson, we're going to be learning about the English vowels. A, E, I, O, and U, right? And sometimes Y. And you might ask, why? Sometimes why? Well, let's find out in today's lesson on English vowels. I think most students who have started learning English know the alphabet. We've had a lesson already on that. If you haven't watched that lesson yet, I encourage you to find that in our playlist here at Study English with Us. And so you probably already know that the English alphabet has 26 letters. But the important thing to know is that even though there are 26 letters in the English alphabet, there are actually over 40 distinct sounds that make up English words. And so, as you might imagine, there are some letters that have more than one sound. And that's kind of the trick to learning how to read English, right? To know some of these unique sounds that certain letters can make. And so we're here to help you learn those unique sounds, the 40 different sounds over 26 letters. For example, city, the C in the English alphabet has more than one sound. And one example would be the soft sound, what we call the soft sound. And that makes the C kind of turn into an S sound. If you were to just try and spell city without ever having seen it, you might spell it with an S, S-I-T-Y, because it sounds like an S, city. But the C can also have a soft sound, we call it a soft sound, and that makes it sound like an S. So city here, even though it's spelled with a C, is city, city. But there's also hard sounds, and that's where we get the k in the C. The C makes a s and a k, k for cat, k, k, cat. So that would be called the hard sound when we think about some letters that have different sounds. This would be called the hard sound, k, cat. Some people have pointed out that C is really a redundant letter. It wouldn't even need to be there in the English alphabet, because any words that have the S sound could be spelled with the S. And any sound that has the k, k sound could be spelled with a K. And so there is really no need for the C. We could have 25 letters in the alphabet. And this isn't the only example. There's a couple more like this. Some have suggested that we really only would have ever needed to have 21 letters in the English alphabet because there's these redundancies. Here's another example of a soft sound using the letter G. The soft G gives a j sound. That's the soft G. Giraffe. Giraffe. And then the hard G sounds g. Gift. Gift. That's the hard G. So it gives you an example of how one letter can have more than one sound. And in these cases, we call it the soft sound, the hard sound. But we're here to talk about the vowels today and learn our vowels. So let's take a look at that. The 5 major vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. All of the rest of the letters in the English alphabet are called consonants. Consonants. Vowels and consonants. So you have 5 major vowels, and all of the rest are consonants. Now, here's the tricky one. It's the Y. Sometimes a Y can be a vowel sound, and sometimes it can be a consonant sound. And the trick is to know when it makes a vowel sound and when it doesn't. As you're reading along in your English books, you come across a Y. Well, how do I pronounce that? And we'll learn some tricks to that in a few minutes. But just know that the Y is sometimes a vowel and sometimes a consonant. People ask, well, what's the big difference between vowels and consonants? Well, in English, the vowel sounds are sounds that you make way down in your throat. A, that comes from the throat. E comes from the throat. You don't have to do anything with your mouth at all. You don't have to put your tongue at the top of your mouth. You don't need to do much with your mouth at all. It all kind of comes from your throat. A, E, I, O. Now for the O, we kind of make our mouth round, kind of make an O. Maybe that's why they call it O, because your mouth has to kind of make an O to make that sound. O, O, A, E, I, O, U. And sometimes Y. Now, with the Y, at least the way we say it in the alphabet, when we're saying the alphabet, it does kind of use the mouth a little bit, Y. And that's because that is the instance where Y is making the consonant sound, Y. And we'll find out what it sounds like in a few minutes when it doesn't use the consonant use and it is being used as a vowel instead. Now, I was going to kind of point out the difference between these sounds that come from the throat and the consonants that where we also have to use parts of our mouth. So to make, like for a T, we have to actually put the tongue up on the near the front teeth, behind the teeth, lift it. I guess the tongue really goes to the top, the roof of the mouth. T, D, G. So it's no longer coming from the throat. We're using our mouth as well to make the sounds. And so that's the big difference between vowels and consonants. Here's some fun facts about vowels. All English words, there might be 1 or 2 exceptions. There usually are, aren't there? There's always, for every rule that's out there, there's 1 or 2 exceptions. But for the most part, all English words must have at least 1 vowel. And if you don't see A, E, I, O, or U, there's most likely a Y in that word, and that's acting as a vowel sound in that word. But that gives you the rule that every English word has to have a vowel sound in it. Another fun fact about vowels is that even though there's only 5, those 5 letters actually make 16 to 20 different sounds. And some might ask, well, is it 16 or is it 20? Give me the actual number. Well, it kind of varies a little bit depending on what country you're coming from and what accents you use as to whether you'll be able to make 16 sounds from the vowels or it may stretch out to 20. But somewhere in that range, 16 to 20 sounds come from just 5 vowel sound letters. Now, just the A alone has 7 distinct sounds. And I think in an upcoming lesson, we're just going to have to concentrate on the sounds of A. And we might do the sounds of E, the sounds of O, and the sounds of maybe even some of the consonants, so that we can learn all 40 sounds from our 26 letters. But what I want us to learn in this lesson is how each vowel has what's called a long sound and a short sound. And we'll give examples what the long and the short sound like. Now, another fun fact about vowels is that if you have learned your alphabet, and we did a lesson on that not too long ago, where we learned our alphabet, and if you've learned it, then you already know the long sound of the vowels. Because when you learn the alphabet, all of the vowels take the long sound. And so, for example, A is the long sound of the vowel A. A. E is the long sound for the vowel E. I, O, U are all the long sounds of the vowels. And so if you have learned your alphabet, then you already know the long sounds of each of the vowels. For today's lesson, what I want to do is quickly go through all of the vowels and learn or see examples of both the long sound and the short sound. So here we are with A. The word ape uses the long sound of the A. But we also have the short sound of A. And so we might say apple. Is one of the sounds of A. As we mentioned, there are actually about 7 different sounds that the letter A can make, and we'll do a lesson on that, don't worry. But for just if you wanted to know what the short sound for A is, it's as in apple. E, eagle. That's the long sound of the E, eagle. But then here's a word that uses the short sound to start the word. The short sound for E is elephant. Elephant. That's the short sound for E. I. Remember, the long sound for I is just as the sound is in the alphabet. I. Ice. Ice. That's the long sound. The short sound is as in igloo. Igloo. You could make a sentence that uses both the long and the short, right? You could say, I made my igloo out of ice, right? O. The long sound is O, just like the letter. Ocean. Ocean. If we wanted to look at the short sound, we would look at We would want to hear That's the short sound. Almost sounds like an A, right? octopus. Octopus, that's the short sound. For a U, now the U, it almost has a Y sound at the beginning, doesn't it? Yeah, you. But that is the long sound, even though it kind of has a Y sound at the beginning. You. And so we could say unicorn. And so that would be the long sound, the U. For the short sound, we could think of umbrella. Umbrella. For the short sound. The short U is . And now we come to the Y. What's up with the Y? Sometimes a consonant, sometimes a vowel. And how do we know when? Well, when the Y is at the beginning of the word, it usually takes the consonant sound. So if you see one of those words that start with Y, you can know it can make the Y sound. That's the consonant sound of Y. Y, yarn, yellow, yellow. That's the consonant sound of Y. Now, when the Y is at the end of a one-syllable word, it usually makes the long I sound. Let's take a look at some examples. Cry. The Y in cry is making the I sound. So Y isn't really giving us any new sounds. When we talk about there might be 16 to 20 different sounds that vowels make, well, Y isn't adding any new sounds. The 16 to 20 sounds are going to come from A, E, I, O, and U. But here we see that the Y is making the sound that an I normally would. The long I, in this case, when it's at the end of a one-syllable word, like cry, it's making I sound. Spy, spy. You'd almost want to spell this S-P-I, right? But in English, it's spelled S-P-Y. That gives us the long I sound. Here's another one. Fly, fly. The long I sound, even though it's a Y. Now, when a Y is at the end of a two-syllable word, it usually makes the long E sound. Let's take a look at some examples. Baby, baby. It's making a long E sound. Baby. Happy, happy. A long E. Happy. Windy, windy is making the long E sound. Now, sometimes the Y is silent. You don't hear it at all. You don't hear an E, you don't hear an I. It's just a kind of a filler letter that isn't making any sound at all. In another lesson coming up, we'll learn about when vowels are usually silent. The rule is when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. We'll learn more about that. So here's an example. Two vowels close together where the Y is acting as a vowel and it's silent. Mayor, mayor, mayor. Prayer is another example where Y is silent. Prayer. All right, well, that does it for this lesson on the vowels, where we learned the long and the short of it. And in an upcoming lesson, we're going to go over some rules that will help you know when to use the long sound and when to use the short sound. There are some basic guidelines, some basic rules in English. And once you learn those rules, you'll find it a lot easier when you're reading a book out loud to get the right pronunciation because of those rules that you learned. Whether to make it a long sound, or a short sound when you pronounce the words. So be sure and stay tuned for that lesson on the rules of vowels. Until next time, we want to say farewell, stay safe, and stay healthy as you self-isolate out there. And let us know in the comments below where you are today as you watch this lesson, and how things are in your country, how you are managing in this difficult time that we're facing throughout the world. But for now, we'll say so long, and we'll see you next time.